Is it me, or does there seem to be a construction site on every block? What's driving this development, and how can a small community like the village of Mamaroneck exercise some control over what gets built and where? Today we're going to explore those issues and get the latest update on plans for redevelopment of the industrial area with Andrew Spatz and John Verni, members of the Mamaroneck Industrial Advisory Committee. I'm Alice Bloom. This is A Town in Village 2. Welcome back. Andrew, John, thanks so much for being my guest. I know it's a busy week for both of you, but we wanted to make sure that we had this opportunity to tell the community about all the work you've been doing. First of all, there seems to be so much development going on in this little village. How many projects do you think have gotten started, completed, or in some way, shape, or form in process in the last, 2 to 3 years?
Little village, big heart.
Yeah, well, it's a popular village. There's probably about 5 or 6 projects going on, things that have been on the works, on the drawing boards for a while.
Well, we know there's a lot of planning that goes on before a project actually gets started, but 5 projects, significant projects.
Yeah, there's about 3 on the Post Road, and I think the Blood Brothers project finally got going, and 1 in the TOD. So it's a spot, the transit-oriented development, which is the area down by the train station. So the old 3 Jalapeno site is being developed as housing.
Now, there was a new site that went up on the Boston Post Road in Rhinebeck. I know because I just happened to go to a dinner party somewhere down there, and I was surprised that what was formerly an empty lot is now a building. Right. There are townhouses on about Boston Post Road and Delancey, that area that had been in formation for, 10 years maybe?
Right. There have been several kind of townhouse projects. Originally, I think it was for 15 units. Now there's 7 being built in one location, and I think 6 in another.
Okay, what's driving that development?
Well, I think now the market's driving it, so you have a lot of empty nesters looking to sell their houses and maybe go into something smaller, and the millennials coming. So that's the TOD's become all the rage, and people are enjoying townhouse and apartment living, and so certainly we're not trying to go in any way like New Rochelle and some of the cities in Westchester. We're trying to keep it at the level of a town.
Well, when you say you don't want to go like New Rochelle, you're talking about intense downtown development with high rises?
New Rochelle's talking about thousands of units. And I'm on the planning board. We're trying to keep this scaled at what everyone enjoys about Mamaroneck Village, which it's a beautiful seaside village.
And keeping in mind also the infrastructure, what it can sustain, and the local school systems. There's so many things that go into factor here. I don't sit on one of the land use boards and commissions, but I know that these projects are vetted, and it's a pretty rigorous process to go through.
But how much control do the land use boards actually have?
Well, the village board passes a zoning code, and then that's what's handed off to the land use boards to enact and work with. And
so we already have zoning in place.
Right.
And there are places that are zoned for commercial, zoned for mixed use, zoned for residential. I mean, in a broad sweep, that's kind of as it is. So someone who's in a residential area can't build a commercial warehouse or establishment, right, unless they get a variance.
Right. So that's the purpose of the zoning, is to make sure that everything is in its proper place, and that we're protecting our residential neighborhoods. And it's become an issue in the village, certainly. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been looking at the industrial area, to try to take our popular village and move some of the uses that people want to bring to an area that needs some redevelopment.
Well, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I really am eager to hear all the details, because it's such a fabulous opportunity for the village, and I know how hard you've been working. But let's go back for a moment to the type of development that we've seen. Does the zoning that's in place now protect us from high-rise development?
Yes, you can't build anything over a certain size now.
50 feet.
I think 50 is the max in our zoning code, but most of it's 45, and in residential neighborhoods it's smaller than that.
Is it hard to get a variance if somebody has a better idea?
I think it is. I mean, first it has to go through the planning board, then it's got to go through the zoning board, and it's got to go past the Harbor Coastal Zone Management Board. So we have hurdles here that things have to go through.
And I think also the input from the community. We're very fortunate that this village, the individuals that take the time out of their lives to sit and man these boards and commissions, they do want the input of the community. So that's a very important component, and that's how special this community is that it's received, it's factored in to decisions.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, Alice, one of the things that happened recently was that the planning board and the other land use boards made recommendations to the village board, and the FARs were lowered in the
Floor
neighborhoods.
area ratios.
The floor area ratios, so that the houses, people were concerned were having McMansions, especially in some of our more middle-class neighborhoods. The houses were becoming too big, and so we've shrunk some of those FARs to try to protect our neighborhoods.
So it really matters that you know what's going on in your community. How do people find out what's going on?
They try to put as much as possible up on the webpage so people are informed, and the neighbors that have been involved in some of these issues, subdivisions in their neighborhoods, have been very involved, and sometimes do make complaints that there isn't enough information on there. But they look at the information.
And we would always, I'm vice president of the Oriental Point Association. It's a very active association representing, advocating on behalf of many homes in Orienta, all of the homes actually, I should say, in Orienta. There are other neighborhood associations that provide information and keep neighbors and the community updated. So things like that are very beneficial. And there's also, you have to give notifications before you do something. You can't just walk in front of the planning board or zoning board with an application. There's a process. You have to have a signage that's placed up, letters that go out. So there is a notification process, and those are really essential. So if individuals are concerned, they attend the presentation.
Okay, so people shouldn't feel that this is things are being done to them. They have ample opportunity to weigh in, to at least hear what's going on and to register their concerns. There's a notification procedure. Everybody within so many feet of any proposed project gets a notification, and maybe numerous ones when that application comes before the various land use boards. One more question about this before we go on to the industrial area, because I know that we have so much to talk about there. I know. What type of development have we seen in the last few years? Do you think it's heavily weighted towards residential or commercial?
I think a lot of it's been higher-end residential, mostly higher-end townhouse units and higher-end apartment units. And I think that's, again, because people are just downsizing and millennials coming in, kind of getting their feet wet coming into the village here, but spending good money for this. Is surprisingly how high the level of these rents are that are
Rents or purchase prices.
are getting.
I mean, the purchase prices on the townhouses on the Boston Post Road are over $1 million to start.
Yeah, I think closer to 2.
Yeah.
But I think interesting, Aquatots, for example, is an entity that they help kids learn to swim.
Okay.
And I believe they are coming into the village. So in terms of commercial, that's a wonderful use. It's a different type of use, and it'll hopefully be located in an area where it's not changing the harmony or character.
Right, so this brings us right to the industrial area. So let's talk about what's going on, because Aquatots is not coming into Heathcote Hill. It's unlikely that they would be able to build there because it's not zoned for that kind of use. However, it might be an opportunity for them to be in the industrial area. Okay, the industrial area typically has been, I don't know, a few food entities. We have Plaza Suites. I don't know if La Marais is still operating, but it used to be. But then it was pretty much industrial. We had a lot of automotive places.
Right. It used to be more warehouses and more places where things were made, and there used to be more manufacturers there. But because of the flooding, a lot of the buildings were taken down, and unfortunately we're left with a lot of paved over lots, and which is the result of the flooding. And so both...
That was in 2007.
2007, right.
And so we're looking at that area both, of course, there's a big Army Corps of Engineer project that's being planned, and so that will help alleviate some of the flooding issues. But even before that, we're looking at that area about how we can do some things there so that we just don't have paved over impervious surface, which isn't good for the environment and isn't really good for the economy down there.
Well, it looks like there's tremendous opportunity for the village of Mamaroneck to create a larger tax base.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's an industrial area typically defrays some of the costs, some of the taxes to people who live in a community.
Right. And I think what we're trying to do is assure economic and environmental longevity, and by doing so, not changing the use currently today that's enjoyed. I've always kidded that you can smelt iron, but you can't sell a cupcake down in that area. But we want to change that. So if you are doing something that's industrial related, you're not going to lose that opportunity. But if you want to sell a cupcake house, you're going to be able to do that because we're looking as an overlay so that the zoning, we're not changing the existing zoning, we're only opening more doors for additional opportunities for
So you're
businesses.
saying that different types of businesses can coexist
Absolutely.
in that area?
Unfortunately, a lot of industrial areas, especially those like in Brooklyn and those type of areas, those old warehouses are being converted to residential. Other areas, they may pave it over and try to bring an IKEA like they tried to do in the industrial area in New Rochelle. Certainly,
Absolutely not.
successful.
No,
not
Okay.
successful. And
Nobody's
and
talking
you and I
about
were
anything like
opposed.
that.
Absolutely not.
We said those are not the two options we're looking at. We're looking at what we have there now and trying to add to it and trying to bring more of the maker economy there, people that make things, not only manufacturing,
Like
but
what?
well, we've turned with the Maker Zone, which is an acronym for manufacturing, artisanal foods, crafts, environmental buffers.
Crafts with a
craft
K.
with
All right,
K.
we're going to give you a spelling lesson.
Environmental buffers, and then recreation. Things like there's a squash facility down there, or things kind of like a mini Chelsea Piers. Those are the type of things.
There's a tremendous demand, especially among the population between Larchmont, Mamaroneck Town, Mamaroneck Village, and Rye, and Harrison for indoor facility. People have to drive up to Stanford. They have to go to Hartsdale. Why can't the Sound Shore have a place that they can call home where kids and adults alike can have an indoor facility? And the industrial area would be perfect and ideal for something like that.
Okay.
So really, the door's open. We want to explore opportunities in the industrial area.
Let me be devil's advocate for one moment. I was on the land use board, on the planning board for 10 years, and I learned a lot. Went to lots of conferences. I mean, I became conversant in the terms and the jargon. I'm going to hold you accountable for talking English. However, I learned something very important, and that was that most viable communities have something we call A streets and B streets. A streets, of course, Mamaroneck Avenue and your beautiful neighborhoods,
Sure.
the things that the world sees. But for all those to function, you need the B streets, the place where you keep the equipment, that the DPW equipment and the salt and all the stuff that you use to keep a community looking as good as it does. I assume those things are now in the industrial area.
Right.
Will they remain there?
That is a great question. And it's a great question because the 3.5 years that John and I have been chairing the Industrial Advisory Committee, those are some of the concerns that have been raised. The industrial area is one of the major gateways into the community. And the spirit of what we're trying to do is obviously maintain the aesthetics, but enhance it with other streetscapes. There are measures that can be done to enhance the experience. We've had several presentations and workshops that involve the community with their participation, their input, including the buffer zone. So individuals that are living in Washingtonville or south of Rockland Avenue, whatever's transpiring won't affect their type of their lifestyle and harmony that they currently enjoy.
Yeah.
So that's been a very important part.
And to your point about the uses, there's a salt shed that's down by 95.
Right.
It's right off 95. So Fenimore does provide some of those B streets so that we can bring the salt and also the city yards over there.
The things that we need to keep
Sure.
our
Sure.
community running well and looking beautiful have to be housed somewhere.
Right.
So they will remain in a portion of the industrial area
Right.
according to your plan.
Right. Yep. Sure.
Let's address the issue of flooding. We fortunately haven't had another 2007 flood, but we don't know where that's going to go. Is that an obstacle towards businesses locating in the industrial area?
I think you can break this down into two parts, and John can help me out. The first component was Washington, D.C., where John and I had the pleasure and distinguished honor of joining municipal leaders meeting with the Army Corps. John can expand upon that. But I think what's most important, separate and apart from the Army Corps, the village must have the ability to maintain the current infrastructure and to, in essence, work in cooperation with our neighbors. If a large storm event is coming, lower the reservoir, make sure that these storm drains are clear. There are things that are being done now that can make a difference between catastrophic flooding and nuisance flooding. There is no silver bullet, but what the little measures that can be taken in terms of maintenance and cooperation collectively with the municipalities does make a significant difference, and we're very fortunate in that. And I'll let you.
Yeah, we're pretty far along with the Army Corps project, and I think it's supposed to be like a $85 million project, and it's supposed to be divided up between what the feds pay for, what the state, the county, and we pay here in the village, and I guess the town. And So we're actually further along in the process at Breezy Point. They got as far as New York City and Federal Plaza, and we went through that stage. We advanced down to Washington, and so
Breezy Point was destroyed basically
by
by
Hurricane Sandy, but they haven't worked out the details of what the plan's going to be.
They're not really very far along, but you guys
So
are.
they say we're further along, and they said, give us some of the context. They said, well, flooding is an issue. For instance, right now over in Washingtonville, they're having a hard time getting a supermarket there because someone doesn't want to invest the money if the area is going to flood. So we told that to Washington, and they said those are the type of things that are impacting people's lives is the reason that they want to fund the flood
I want to
mitigation
talk very plainly
project.
to our average listener. What are we going to do in the industrial area that will mitigate the potential for a catastrophic flood and make it possible for, I don't know, Stop and Shop or whatever supermarket to say, oh, hey, this is a good place
A
to
couple of things. Is one is the Army Corps project. Two is that they're going to do something with the zoning so that you don't start counting the height until you get above the base flood elevation.
So basically what we're saying is we're going to insist that things be built up.
We insist that things get built above the base flood level. And when things get built, that they get built with green infrastructure, that they get built with more stormwater management features that allow for water to, so we don't have as much impervious surface and more pervious surface.
I noticed in the plan that the setbacks on Waverly Avenue were going to be about 5 feet. And that in certain parts of the plan, you were going to encourage people or ask for permission, either whether it be special permit or a zoning change, to allow the lot coverage to be 100%. So long as there was implementation of stormwater management techniques.
Right.
To me, that seemed counterintuitive. If we're covering that much of the lot, are we not creating the potential for more flooding?
The thing right now,
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Because right now it's all covered with parking lots.
You have 100% right now.
100% right now. If you employ those techniques, then you can actually do more with your stormwater management.
So what would a proposed development have to do? When we say stormwater management, we gloss over that. What does that add to the construction costs and to the actual dynamic of the construction? What will they have to do?
Well, it could be expensive because you're going to have to go into a stormwater system. So any water that comes off of a roof has to go into a stormwater, either
And
catch
now
basin
a lot of
or
things don't.
a
They
lot
just
of
sort
the water
drain
just
in.
falls right on the parking lots, and those parking lots take the gas emissions from automobiles, and it goes right into the sound. So this will give us an opportunity to catch that and not be washing gas emissions into our water.
And recall, we're at the bottom of the watershed, unfortunately,
right.
with all the communities north of us. And what we're trying to do is limit or address our contribution to the problem. And with that being said, whether it's a green roof, one of my favorite slides that we've used in presentations comes from Vancouver, Canada, where the municipality installed sidewalks that retain water. So there are things that can be done collectively, not just by the privates, but also in conjunction to the municipality that would really make a difference. Again, move from catastrophic down to nuisance.
Okay, but who will control what that will look like? Who sets the standard for, okay, we want this kind of sidewalk, for example, which of course will probably be more expensive than a traditional poured concrete sidewalk. Who is going to be taking the lead here and controlling or seeing that a developer complies with that?
It'll be the municipality, the village board and the land use boards, and also the things we develop. Now we're going into a GEIS, a generic environmental impact statement, try to get a baseline on what's down in the industrial areas. So a consultant's been hired to start to look at that, to see what is the traffic issues, what are the traffic issues there, what are the parking issues there, what are is the environmental baseline down there. So that'll set us up.
I'm glad you set yourself up here. Parking, one of the
We're
biggest. You are.
We
I know.
are.
One of the biggest issues in the suburbs is parking. Everybody
Yes,
drives their own car to the indoor recreational facility. You drive your own child. Maybe if you're really nice, you drive your neighbor's child. But sometimes that doesn't work. Is there any talk about a public transportation system, shuttles, some variation of that?
That's a great. You're reading my mind, Alice.
Oh, I'm scared
John,
now.
John and I are going to sit down there and valet. No, I'm just kidding.
You'd be great.
The great point here is at 2 points. One is that there are certain properties down in the industrial area right now that are in discussions with possibly working in conjunction to the municipality of using that property for municipal parking or public parking. That's number one. Number two, the vision that we share and have is, let me take a step back. During the 2 food truck fairs that we've had, which were remarkably successful and really drew a lot of wonderful attention to the community, back last fall of 2016 and this past spring, people walked and they biked. There's a demand. People from the town of Mamaroneck, it's a way to connect the community. Utilize the sheldrake, the green space that we want to utilize as a buffer zone. Make it accessible so that you can bike, walk, you don't necessarily have to take your car, and also as a way to connect the rest of the community of the village.
So the answer to my question about public transport is no.
Well, no, because we'd like to hook up, because we're right near the train station.
Right.
And so if we could hook that up with some of the,
Sure.
the overlay anticipates actually coming over a bit into Hoyt, and if we can get people from the train down to Hoyt and into the industrial area and not doing so with their cars.
That's the connectivity.
And you know, the younger generation is very good about jumping on a train and going up and down the train line.
It's the way the world works
And-
Yeah.
for most people outside of the suburbs.
Right.
And that's what surprised us with when we had thousands of people attend that food truck fair. And we were so concerned, my goodness, where are these people going to park? We had we had ample parking. We had a tremendous turnout of people walking and biking, which was wonderful to see. It's something that we weren't expecting.
Any thought of a city bike type program?
That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, if
a
we could do that.
Mamaroneck bike program, whatever
we
you call it.
could do that. And
you heard it first here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just went out to marathon and saw my daughter ran the Chicago Marathon, and to see her compete, we jumped on one of their city bikes and drove around. It'd be great if we had that here in Mamaroneck.
Well, it's ubiquitous now. Most cities do have something like that. But I think that's an obstacle. I mean, people don't bring their bike on the train or whatever. You know, it's not there. But it's certainly well used in cities, remarkably. For better or for worse, I think people could use a little education about safety on bikes, but that's another subject. Okay, since we don't have unlimited time, I want to hear more about the kinds of things you're thinking of in the industrial area. We talked about indoor recreation facilities to enhance the ones that already are there. Some artisans places. I saw some indication of boutique hotels. Is there a need for those
That
kinds of...
hasn't really been on the forefront. One of the things that has been on the forefront is microbreweries. There's an interest in...
There's a lot of interest in...
A lot of
Tremendous.
microbrewers, that type of thing, and micro distilleries. The planning board just took it up, the village board just took up the issue of microbreweries and how they should be properly sized and properly placed. And there's encouragement from the state. I mean, I think it's a pretty big industry for the state
Budding
of New
industry.
York to encourage that.
Do you know in other communities where such facilities have been encouraged, has it increased problems with drunkenness or bad behavior?
You know what? Actually, Andrew and I were at a meeting that we were invited to go and speak at the
Pace Law School,
Land Use Center, and we met with other municipal officials and Peekskill right now is seeing some growth in that microbrewery.
Without problems.
Industry.
They didn't make any notations of specific issues or above average.
And one of their problems actually is that a lot of that's happening down by the water, but their town is up on a hill. Here, we're kind of close together, so people can walk from our downtown and walk to our industrial area without that type of problem. And that's another important point. We don't want to affect our downtown area in any way. We have great businesses. We're really the envy of many communities
In fact,
with what we have
at this-
on
at
our
this-
Mamaroneck Avenue.
At this presentation, we were told that we were leading the pack, which, hey, listen, there are a lot of wonderful communities up here in Westchester County, but to hear that from other municipalities,
That's pretty remarkable.
That is that comes from the collective effort, not just with our committee, but working in conjunction to the residents, to the stakeholders, being the business owners, property owners, the village officials. So really, everybody is a stakeholder when it comes to the
But it's
success of
also
this.
remarkable. I mean, I've been in the village a number of years, and I'm not going to talk about how many. I was a child.
Just a few. Just a few.
Child
Exactly.
when I came here. But we always talked about having Mamaroneck Avenue, having a mall manager type person to invite businesses to the community. Well, it never really worked out, and somehow we don't have a whole lot of retail on Mamaroneck Avenue anymore, but we sure have a lot of great restaurants.
Right.
And it's become the focus. Now, I don't know if the movie theater is going to open again or if that's a done deal, if that's going to be a condo. We lost CVS. That's a big loss as far as I can see. But my point is, as I walk down Mamaroneck Avenue, there are a few vacancies, but really not very many.
We're still the envy of a lot of communities.
Yeah.
A lot of communities actually think we're pretty bright, and they say, "How do you guys do it?" Because you have a great,
But
vibrant
I mean, how did that
downtown.
happen? I mean, was
I
it
think
actually
we have a good mix, and I think it's diverse in a lot of ways. It's diverse in income levels, diverse in
needs,
nationalities down there, and diverse in the type of businesses there.
Right.
So I think we hit a lot of needs.
I think the ebb and flows with the demand. Retail right now, whether you're in New York City, Mamaroneck, I think the retail aspect, they're having challenging times. You're going to websites rather than actually take it.
Right, people don't go to a
But
mall
what
anymore.
we want to do
right?
is we want to make and bring back that experience made in Mamaroneck. And
So you're including retail in the industrial area,
sure,
trying
because
to-
right now,
Yeah, so one of the problems with manufacturing is that ancillary to you can do a retail use, but you can't go and do a straight retail use. So if you wanted to go down there and sell cupcakes, that's not right presently in the zoning. You
Only
have to be
150
feet of either side of Fenimore.
Okay.
So the overlay zone anticipates doing it from Fenimore down to Ogden and allowing those type of maker
business.
businesses.
But when we talk about retail in the industrial area, I mean, you're talking about food establishments seem to flourish.
Right.
But retail, are you talking about
art
garments,
galleries,
clothing?
art gallery. I mean, we're taking a more broad
broad
stroke and
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
brings
something
us to
like that.
another point. You mentioned that there has to be some changes in what you're calling a zoning overlay.
Right.
Okay, for those people who are not conversant in land use terms, it means a change. You need permission from somebody to change the use. We have a comprehensive plan which elaborates the zoning in various areas. We have mixed use. I mean, Mamaroneck Avenue is a retail and restaurant establishment. But there are some areas that are C1 and C2 where we have some mixed use. For example, we have the Regatta on Mamaroneck Avenue. It's caused some challenges, right? Because they abut restaurants and all, but it seems to have worked its way out. What kind of changes do you need in the industrial area, and how will this affect our comprehensive plan?
Well, here's the good news. Chapter 5 of that very comprehensive plan does speak very clearly in terms of the need to protect and enhance the M1 zone, which is the industrial area. And by taking the overlay approach, we're accomplishing just that, protecting the current businesses, but adding opportunities, changing the more archaic, the fact that you can't sell retail 150 feet beyond Fenimore Road, opening up those doors. But it's funny, I was just looking at that, the comprehensive plan very much made direct reference, has a whole chapter dedicated to the industrial area, as well as there was a previous industrial area
Comprehensive
study
plan, right?
that was done in the late 90s, as well as 2 different street studies. So this is something, what we've done is we've taken it further, and rather than just letting it be a footnote or a paperweight, we're actually going to implement.
How does a comprehensive plan get changed? I mean,
We have to go through a long process with the comprehensive plan.
Tell me quickly how you do it. I mean, it's not somebody who bestows a comprehensive plan on the
No,
community.
the village board through the secret process has to go through and
State Environmental Quality Review
Act.
Act.
Yes,
And
there
there's
you go.
gotta be GEISs and DEISs and FEISs.
Oh, you're
Acronyms.
challenging
lot
me.
of acronyms.
Yes, to get to a new comprehensive plan.
Well, I mean,
but I
just to
think what
assure
Andy's
the
point
public
is
that there's a vast amount of
Sure.
environmental review.
right. But I think to Andy's point is that this has been in the comprehensive plan to do something with that area, and it's a great opportunity. And we look at it as an opportunity to protect our neighborhoods because there's things that maybe are impacting our neighborhoods. Like one instance would be the Sandbox Theater, which was now impacting one of the neighborhoods up by US 1. And
Okay, that's a small theater on the Boston Post Road.
But they wanted to now go to performances and they wanted to expand, but then we said, well, maybe we don't want that to expand there. Why don't you go take a look down by the industrial area? And they did, and now, right now, their theater space, their rehearsal space, is above the kickboxing place.
I see.
So,
So-
these are bigger uses that would be more appropriate in areas like the industrial area.
So your objective here is to preserve the quality and the integrity of our existing
Absolutely.
neighborhoods, but create some other opportunities.
Absolutely.
John, Andrew, thank you so much for being my guest. We've covered lots of ground. I have
did.
lots more questions, and I'm going to make you come back.
I look
Okay,
forward to it.
thanks so much.
Thank you for having us
It'll be my pleasure.
and sharing that vision with us.
Glad to be with you.
And thanks at home for watching. I'm Alice Bloom. We'll see you next time.